What's going on, y'all? How's everybody been doing? So the last time I left you guys, we ended in Greenville. So tonight we are going from Greenville down to Jacksonville, 390 miles. Let's go ahead and get this all hooked up. So the hostler's actually hooked it, so all I gotta do is, do the easy work. So, hopefully you guys all, enjoyed the last video. Oh, man, it's heavy. So we got 24 on the lead and 15 on the rear, so got a decent amount, right? As I always tell y'all, get under there and check. And as I've always told you guys, even if it's hooked, still, check everything. I never, trust these people that hook it. Not to say that they're not competent in their job, because they are. But, I always like to make sure for myself, you know what I mean? So once I get to Jacksonville, of course, I'm not sure what they'll have me doing. They could send me back up into Georgia, or probably further south, which is what I imagine that'll probably end up happening. They'll probably send me to Savannah, if I had to guess. Now, of course, I could have easily put dangerous instead of, corrosive and flammable, but me personally, I don't like using the dangerous. To me, it's just too vague. So I would rather just, flip them both, because I don't want, them to have to wonder, like, what exactly, does he have, So that's just my personal preference. So I don't know why I didn't bring my tire thumper. I left it in the truck, but this method, still works. All right. All right, y'all, let me get myself dispatched out of here, and I will catch up with you guys in just a moment. So we are in Jacksonville. I'm actually down the street from the terminal. Pretty smooth ride for the most part. Caught a little bit of rain, but I don't know what it is. It seems like this industry is getting worse and worse. I'm seeing more and more, drivers tailgating. It's just like I just never could understand the logic, I see semis tailgating other semis, and it's like, we all know we cannot stop on a dime, right? And you'll just see drivers like just inches, they're damn near kissing the DOT bumper of the person in front of them, and it's like, why? Like me personally, I've never been one of those drivers that will, you know, hog the middle lane or block the left lane. You know, that's not me. You know, the only time you'll really catch me in the middle is if I'm passing, or if I'm in like a major area where there's like several exit after exit. But other than that, you can find me in the right lane. And what I'm starting to notice is even when you're in the right lane, you'll still have drivers tailgating, you know? And for me personally, I don't know if it's the placards. It seems like when I have placards, I attract, you know, stupidity. What's the word I'm looking for? I attract, you know, reckless drivers, you know? Prior to recording, you know, I had this guy like right on my ass, and mind you, I'm in the right lane, and it's like, I know he can see those placards. I know he can see them. It's right in front of your face, and it's just like, if you see that, what in your mind, you know, was that, let me get as close as I can to this guy. I don't get it. It's like some of these drivers, I think some of y'all forget that you're not in your personal vehicle, you're in a truck. Like, I don't know. And it's like when I see these accidents in person or on the internet, it's like part of me, it's hard sometimes for me to feel sorry for some of these drivers, because it's like they put themselves in these predicaments. And it's not always the foreigners. You know, I know people love to, you know, say, oh, it's the foreigners. No, it's not just them. I don't know what it's gonna take for some of these drivers to, you know, drive like they got some sense out here. But enough of my little mini rant. So down the street from the yard, as soon as I go over this overpass here, we'll be at the terminal. I'm still not sure yet where I'm going, but I'll know in just a moment. Let's see. I don't know if y'all can see this. I must say though, I did make a good time. It's only a little after 3, and I left out probably around 9, I think it was. But we are pulling up. So just for the sake of people's, you know, privacy, let me go ahead and tune back in with you guys when I leave up out of here. Yeah, so we're back. So when I got to Jack's, I ended up having to wait about an hour. And right now I am on the way to Tampa, which actually works out because I get to go home for the day and then of course come back. And this is just another one of them times where, you know, my dispatchers, you know, they looked out, because even though I run out of Orlando, they know that I live in Tampa. And, you know, I've always asked them, I'm like, listen, you know, if y'all are gonna run me in Florida, you know, if you're able to, send me to Tampa, you know. And majority of the time, it works out that way, you know. Now, when I originally left Greenville, I left out with a Jacksonville and a Fort Lauderdale trailer. I ended up keeping the Fort Lauderdale, and they paired it with another southbound pup, you know, that came in from wherever it came out of. Now, in most cases, Fort Lauderdale, Miami said that's going to Orlando all day long, right? But since I live, you know, in Tampa, you know, as a favor to me, they're having me take that to Tampa, and then, you know, that'll end up going with probably one of the scheduled guys that runs down there tonight. So, you know, shout out to them for that. You know, one thing I wish that people would realize is school buses and tankers are not the only two vehicles that stop at railroad crossings. Anybody that knows, you know, when you're coming from Jacksonville to get to 75, you have to take US 301, and then you work your way to State Road, I think it's 326. Now between both of those roads, there's two railroad crossings, you know, one on 301 when you get into Hawthorne, and then there's the one on the 326 when you get into Ocala. I kid you not, both times I got blowed at. Now, mind you, I have placards, of course, so you have to stop at those tracks. So I put on my flashers, you know, well in advance, so they knew that I was stopping, but I guess still felt the need to blow their horn and throw their hands up, like, what are you doing? Well, I'm just doing what I'm, you know, supposed to do. I'm required to stop at those tracks. And again, that's just a pro tip for anybody that doesn't know. You know, if you see somebody with placards on their trailer, they're gonna stop at those railroad tracks, you know. Now, for those who don't know, if, you know, you were to get caught, like say I decide to not stop at those tracks, and I just so happen to get caught by, you know, DOT or, you know, law enforcement, you know, that's an expensive ticket. I don't know how much it is, but from what I understand, it's very pricey, and you might find yourself, you know, unemployed, you know, after you get that ticket. You know, I personally don't know anybody that's gotten that ticket, but I do know that ticket is, you know, very expensive. So yeah, that's what we got going on. So right now it's 7:13, so I should get to Tampa. Well, it's really in Throna-Sassa, but we call it Tampa. I should get there probably like around 8:15ish, maybe 8:20, somewhere around there, and then I will go home for the day. And the good thing is, since I'm only, you know, the term I run out of was only 74 miles, of course they're not just gonna send me from Tampa to Orlando and then say you're done. That'll never happen. So I would imagine I'm probably gonna go north, probably Jacksonville or Valdosta, and then they'll work me back down, you know, towards Orlando, where I will finish up my week. And as far as these videos, you know, I'm kind of doing trial and error because my camera has actually been acting up. I've been noticing that after, you know, I hit the stop record, sometimes it'll freeze up. So I'm probably gonna have to take a look at that and figure out why it's doing that. I may have to, I don't know if it's I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna have to sit down and figure that out. But hopefully Monday coming up, starting Monday, that's what I'll do, you know, full, you know, vlogs, take you through the week, you know, because I'm just using these two vlogs that you're gonna see. That's pretty much just a test, like a trial and error. That way I can see how they come out, and yeah, so just bear with me. The vlogs will get better over time. But all right, enough rambling. I'll tune in with you guys when I get a little closer to Tampa. So we're back in Tampa, just grabbed my dolly, and tonight I will be headed to Valdosta. And then being though that it's Friday, once I get to Valdosta, I'll either get sent straight back to Orlando or they might send me to Jacksonville. And then we're gonna end the week. So here's my rear right here in front of me. As you guys probably saw in the last clips, you know, some terminals you go to, you know, they hook it for you. Others, you know, you hook it yourself. You know, here in Tampa, I like to hook it myself because it'll get me out the gate sooner. You know, there's some guys, you know, that prefer to have the hostlers do it, but me, when given the chance, I'm gonna do it myself. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. We're gonna continue from this point in the next video. So as I always tell you guys, thank you to all my day one subscribers. Thank you to all my new subscribers. I appreciate all of you guys. And as I always tell y'all, y'all take it easy, y'all stay safe, and I will catch y'all in the next one.